it's frustrating for me when people look at the what's in front of us and say, okay, this is it. This is the universe. When we
Hello, my name's Alexei Novitzky, and today I'd like to talk to you guys about inner and outer realms of experience. But before we get started, just go ahead and, do a little dance like the shuffle. Shuffle on over and hit that like, notify, subscribe, and we'll get started.
I guess I don't know how you would describe experience a different dimension, Alexei, but
well,
go ahead.
I've often described it when people say, well, what's how do you describe something beyond the third dimension? And I've often told people, look, in a three-dimensional world, we have three axes, right? You have an x-axis, a y-axis, and a z-axis. Meaning, I can go, for example, in lay terms, I can go forward and backwards, I can go left and right, and I can go up and down. And a variation of those allows me to have any point in a three-dimensional space. A fourth dimension might be, for example, if you were a human being and you didn't go anywhere, you just got smaller. You started to withdraw, you started to go inwards, right? You're not going outwards in any particular direction. You're actually going in to the universe.
That was interesting. Let's see what Carl Sagan has to say about this.
Our Flatlander couldn't imagine a third dimension, but he could sure deduce it. Now, increase all the dimensions in this story by one, and you have something like the situation which many cosmologists think may actually apply to us. We are three-dimensional creatures trapped in three dimensions. We imagine our universe to be flat in three dimensions, but maybe it's curved into a fourth. We can talk about a fourth physical dimension, but we can't experience it. No one can point to the fourth dimension. I mean, there's left, right, and there's forward, back, there's up, down, and there's some other directions simultaneously at right angles to those familiar three dimensions.
Let's go back and check out a podcast I did on the Unidentified Celebrity Review Show with Lou Angelis, Singularity Mike, and Rather Be Squiding.
Use radio, right? And we can't see radio, and we leverage that. Like, I think that if we didn't have eyes, we probably would be able to figure out that there is some other electromagnetic phenomenon known as light that you could trigger something, and that could create an audio message at the end of that light traveling. So I'm not entirely convinced by that argument, but I do think it's an interesting thought experiment.
No, I do see what you're saying there too, and you could even say that feel, right, the sense of temperature difference might eventually give us the indication that infrared energy exists, and then maybe somehow we would come across the electromagnetic spectrum. But so maybe that's where we are right now, is understanding that quantum potentialities exist. And so how do we use this next sense, right? How do we use this newest sense that we gained?
Yeah, and that's kind of where the like I'm willing to believe that there might be forces, fundamental forces that we can't really experience or comprehend. But the question I have is how how can we get a handle on something if we can't perceive it? And is that kind of what you're trying to do?
Well, that's 100% the point. That's why you could say that my physics is completely different, because I talk about perceivable universes. Like what, we have a certain tuning, we're a certain vibration. We can never perceive certain things. And so what I talk about is literally layers of perceivable dimensions that already harmonize with human consciousness.
Would,
So
would you would you have a problem with the statement saying that some of your theories might be more philosophical than scientific, or does that
No,
rub you the wrong way?
no, but at the end of the day, my theory can be tested scientifically, and you can make technologies. So I think once the tests happen, at that point, the philosophical aspect of it kind of goes out the window, and yeah, now it's scientifically proven.
When you say my physics, what are you exactly referring to?
Just the model I have created.
Can you elaborate on that?
Well, you know how we basically live in a universe, right? And a lot of people are familiar with the idea that, you know, I have a 3D model opened. Can I open that?
Yeah, please.
Okay, let me do a share screen. I'm going to share an empty screen, and hopefully I can move this model there.
Yep.
Yep.
I see it.
Okay, cool. So the easiest way to think of it is we live in the universe, right?
Mhm.
You know how everyone describes the universe as like the smooth field of green energy. But, you know, in long distances, the universe is curved, and it wraps around itself. And so at the end of the day, our universe is orbiting a greater structure. And so when you think about just normal formations of objects, you would have an orbit that's more inward, and you would have an orbit that's more outward. And when it comes to the quantum relationship, you could potentially say that the energy we experience in our layer that is the universe stems from inner energy adding from outer energy, right? Because you have different energies here. And so depending on how close you are to the center is how stretched and crunched the energy you're experiencing would be as it reaches that distance from the center of time.
So okay, so this theory is built on the supposition that the universe is curved, and therefore there should be inner and outer universes that are wrapping around it. Is that the idea?
Not necessarily that the universe is curved, but that the universe is in an orbit around the center of a structure.
And can you explain where that idea comes from?
The Earth orbits the sun. Or say, let me repeat. We orbit the center of the Earth. The Earth orbits the center, the gravitational, you know what I'm saying? Okay, keep it simple. The Earth orbits the sun orbits a galaxy. At that point, we think the universe is expanding, right? But at the most rawest experience, because all we have is experience, we have a field of energy and we have a consciousness. And so if you get into relativity, you understand that the relationship of energy to your experience is 100% related to velocity. So your frame of reference in relationship to a field of energy, the most rawest experience. And so you could say that matter would be energy that is on the. So now let me take you to another drawing here. Back to this one. Well, actually, this isn't the best drawing, but it kind of shows what I'm saying. So you can imagine the future would be on the left here, if we're orbiting to the left. So the most raw, and you could think of yourself as in a gravitron, right? Where energy between you and the center is being crunched to you, and energy behind you is essentially being stretched away. So if we have a singular energy, and we need to create all experiences, we need to create matter, light, sound, touch, feel, taste, and smell. You could say that energy between you and the center of time, when you're approaching it, is being crunched and stretched away. And then as you leave that spot of perception, energy is reverting back to normal, right? It's Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. Matter and light are only differentiated when perceived. So we basically have a consciousness perceiving a field of energy.
And so what can we do with this secret knowledge? What can we make? What can we create?
Maybe we can alter somehow the frequencies that we're in, some sort of sphere, right? If we can electrically charge it, if we can change that light state that Alexei's talking about, maybe we'll be able to experience a different dimension.